You got stocks rocking on the news, up 94 points there on the Dow, but it's not all good news on the jobs front. Missouri. Let's talk about Missouri. They're rolling back a recent minimum wage hike in St. Louis as some smaller businesses are struggling to hire new workers. Is this a lesson for other cities? I want to go to Sarah Budwati, Ashley Hayek, and Shelby Holiday. Ashley, starting with you, raising the minimum wage, does that help or does that hurt an economy?
It hurts. When minimum wage increases, the cost of goods and service increase as well. We're finding that technology, as great as technology is becoming, is able to replace some basic functions that employees used to be able to provide. For example, going to a restaurant, using a fancier ATM machine at a bank. The technology is more reliable, they show up on time, and they don't call in sick. There are 3 cases in San Francisco, San Diego, and Seattle where it shows that increase in minimum wage drastically hurt the businesses that were there. Yeah. In San Diego, there was a $1.50 minimum wage increase last January, and it resulted in 4,000 jobs lost in the food and beverage industry here in San Diego.
Sarah, why is it that local governments cannot trust workers and the overall marketplace and business owners to get it right? I mean, why not let the market dynamics kick in?
Well, what we're seeing here in Missouri is that over 30,000 people got a raise. And when we're talking about the minimum wage, sure, it's about economics, but it's also about values. And currently, if you're working full-time, making the minimum wage status quo, you're only making $14,000 a year, which is well below the federal poverty line. And in this particular state, in Missouri, the people of Missouri voted to raise the minimum wage. And now a party that typically champions local governance is trying to undo the will of the people. And I think just because a couple small business owners are hurting doesn't mean that we should jeopardize what the public asked for and helping workers make more money.
Shelby, the business owners are the ones that employ the people, right? So if you don't have any businesses, if they aren't succeeding, if they can't actually make the money to employ the people, then you're actually hurting a local economy. Just to go back to a little econ 101 here.
Yeah, well, and then also you've got the Republican governor in Missouri saying, look at Seattle. There was a recent study in Seattle. Seattle raised its minimum wage. And this new study basically says that because of this minimum wage hike, workers are working fewer hours, 9% less, and they're making $125 less a month on average. Because when you raise the minimum wage and small businesses have to pay their employees more, they cut their hours or they lay them off. Now, economists will say, well, this research it's not definitive, but it is credible. I was speaking to an MIT economist. He said, data shows that if you raise the minimum wage in small increments, it does raise people out of poverty. If you raise it too much, like Democrats want to do,
right? I think we can all agree. We got a problem in that people are not making enough money. And wages went up in the last month, but they're not going up enough. They're not going up fast enough, I would argue. But I don't know how you go in, Ashley, and say, we're going to legislate this. We're going to make sure that wages grow. I mean, you need to have, once again, economic forces kick in. Otherwise, heck, we're no better than France, right?
Right. The government can mandate what the wages are, but they can't mandate how many people a company hires. President Trump, when he came out with his jobs plan, had identified that there's a huge need for skilled workforce, which kind of is an indication of our education system, and that's where the problem is. I think his plan gives a lot of opportunity for people to get into skilled professions, and the people who are really championing the minimum wage are unions, and in their agreements, they're putting in collective bargaining agreements, which exempt them from having to pay their own employees minimum wage, which is completely hypocritical.
Comes around full circle, right back to the unions. All right, Ashley, so good to see you. Thank you so much, Sarah, and
thank you.
Of course, Shelby. Critics, everyone, slamming President Trump, of course, again for promoting